Welcome to today's webinar, Tips for Early Stage Entrepreneurs, an intro to technology accelerators. And today we're interviewing CIT's Mike Ravenscroft. Mike is actually with CIT's Mach 37 Cyber Accelerator. We're going to talk about that a little bit in a little bit. Today's webinar is funded in part through a grant award that CIT received from the U.S. Small Business Administration. CIT's mission and charter, we're a nonprofit. We're creating technology-based economic development strategies to accelerate innovation, imagination, and the next generation of technology and technology companies here throughout the Commonwealth. Created in 1985, again, CIT is a nonprofit corporation, plugging the gaps at the earliest stages of the innovation continuum, commercialization and seed funding, and other programs that support this mission, as it helps entrepreneurs launch and grow high-growth technology companies and high-paying jobs for the future. Three of the key programs that CIT has to accomplish this mission relates to how we engage with early stage entrepreneurs and also with some university related activities. Our federal funding assistance program, which I manage, I'm Robert Brook, I'm the director of federal funding programs at CIT. It supports early stage companies who are looking to learn about and apply for the federal SBIR and STTR, Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer grants that provide those over $2.5 billion each year in these federal programs with 11 agencies. So Virginia ranks third in the country typically in these awards. So that's my mission. The CRCF, the Commonwealth Research Commercialization Fund, has 5 key grant-based programs each year in an annual solicitation. The grants are between $50,000 and $100,000 for both university research as well as small business research activities. Typically, the solicitation comes out in the fall with the deadlines in early part of the year and awards made in typically June of each year. So for more information, you can certainly find out more about that on our website. And finally, our GAP fund is an investment seed fund. So it takes an investment position, investing in early stage high growth potential companies. So not every company is going to be a fit for investment. Typically, those investments range anywhere from 50K to 200K from early investments as well as follow-on investment opportunities. And CIT also manages the Mach 37 Cyber Accelerator program through the GAP fund. So we're going to talk about that here shortly. Again, I'm Robert Brook. I'm the Director of Federal Funding Program. As this webinar is sort of part of a grant that we got from the SBA to do initiatives that are helping educate early stage and maybe even university spin out companies on some of the early stage entrepreneurial activities that they might want to be aware of. We're doing a series of these to talk about some various tips for entrepreneurs and early stage entrepreneurs. Today we have Mike Ravenscroft. Again, he's Associate Director of Mach 37 and Investment Associate here at the CIT GAP Funds. And I want to talk a little bit about Mike's background and what he does here at CIT, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about his understanding and how he promotes and talks about technology accelerators in general, and then we're going to dive in a little bit more in the Mach 37 program in a little more detail. So with that, Mike, take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and again, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate your time. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then a little bit more about the accelerator programs that are out there, and then we'll get into the Mach 37 program here shortly.
Sure thing, Robin. Thanks so much for organizing this and for inviting me to be a part of it. I'm really looking forward to this. So yeah, one of the things we actually coach our entrepreneurs on is getting professional looking headshots. And it just occurs to me that I need to take my own advice on that. So bit about my background. I've been with CIT for over 4 years. I've been working through that time on a variety of projects designed to promote innovation and innovative technology companies in the Commonwealth. I've done a lot of work for the state government through some of our consulting work with the Virginia Department of Education, the Virginia Workforce Agencies, basically helping both government and private industry and entrepreneurs come together to better understand the innovation ecosystem and make life easier for early stage entrepreneurs, and to overall improve the innovation ecosystem like you alluded to. So for the past 2 years, I've been working in various accelerator programs that CIT runs and operates in both partnership with government entities as well as other nonprofits. So I was on the team that the team that launched the Emerge First Responder Technology Accelerator. That was a first of its kind accelerator program designed to get innovative startup companies to develop technology for the first responder market, which is traditionally lacking in innovation. So we developed that in partnership with Department of Homeland Security. It's now in its third cohort. And I was also on the team that launched the inaugural cohort of the Smart City Works Accelerator, which is an accelerator designed to accelerate companies that are developing technologies for the built environment, also the first of its kind. And so about 7 months ago, I joined the CIT-VIPC team and became associate director of Mach 37. And in my role at Mach 37, I am primarily responsible for managing the day-to-day operations of the accelerator program, which I'll sort of explain a bit more in depth in a minute. I work to source innovation from the regional ecosystem and beyond. We actually have a lot of companies that come from the international innovation ecosystem. So we've had companies from Europe, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, as well as Canada apply for the program and be accepted in the program. And in addition to that, I help grow and develop our mentor network, which is over 250 professionals from cybersecurity, primarily folks from industry and the private sector. We also have people who have worked extensively with the government. The government is the largest customer for cybersecurity products, and it's just down the road. So we have a lot of folks there who help our early stage startups understand working with the government, navigate procurement channels, and all that. So that's sort of the gist of what it is I do. I also help manage some of the events that we do for our entrepreneurs, both regionally and nationally. And I also work to source companies for the GAP portfolio, which are beyond cybersecurity. But primarily my focus is in the cybersecurity innovation ecosystem development.
So a little bit about, is you're in your role at Mach 37, running the different cohorts. First, talk a little bit more about, an accelerator, the concept of accelerators, and then
Sure.
Like from a high level, what they're all about, their purpose, maybe how they differ from, there's different kinds of accelerators. It's sort of one of the names du jour these days, and I think the names get kind of taken and used in different capacities. So what's your thoughts on what an accelerator's main goal is in general? And then we can talk a little more about what the Mach 37 program, how it fits into there.
Great question. So at the risk of a history lesson, accelerators are fairly recent phenomenon. Accelerators and incubators. I think Techstars originally launched early 2000s, and Y Combinator I think claims to be the first, and I think that late 90s, early 2000s. So they hadn't really been around all that long, but they've had a significant impact, and they have grown dramatically. Their presence as well as their influence has grown dramatically over that period. So you think some estimates there are about 5,300 accelerators, incubators, and as one of our mentors calls them, whateverators, in the U.S. and internationally, and they do different things depending on sort of how the programs are structured and what they offer to entrepreneurs. So to give you an overview of Mach 37, we run an accelerator that is primarily based on helping companies understand the cybersecurity ecosystem, help them figure out how do they make an impact regionally, how do they start working with key players in industry, how do they develop viable businesses and sustainable businesses and high growth businesses around the industry, which is very complex to navigate. Cybersecurity has changed dramatically in the last even 5 years since we launched Mach 37. Market is extremely different than it was. It's a much more crowded space than it ever has been, and there's a lot of fatigue among purchasers of cybersecurity solutions, both in Fortune 500 companies, but also in small and mid-sized enterprise. And so we try to help companies cut through the noise and really figure out what are the customer pain points that they need to be thinking about, what are the trends in industry, what are the changes in the market that they need to be aware of that will help them make their companies successful. And so, we are a vertical-based accelerator, a vertical focused accelerator. We source companies that are exclusively in cybersecurity, information technology. There are a number of accelerators nationally that are sector agnostic. Y Combinator, 500 startups, Grand Central Tech, Dream It, to name a few. And regionally in the DC, DMV area, there's Halcyon, Seed Spot, Startups Ignite, all of which are sector agnostic. And those programs have a lot to offer in their own right. I think for Mach 37, the reason the founding team, launched the program was to address what they saw as a legitimate need in the regional market for startups and for developing an entrepreneurial ecosystem around cybersecurity. Just because this is such a rich region for cybersecurity technology companies. Apart from having the federal government here, you have almost every company that has any kind of footprint in cybersecurity internationally has some kind of presence in Northern Virginia and in Maryland and DC as well. And so, for us, I mean, we see this as a great opportunity to get entrepreneurs from not just regionally but nationally and internationally, to provide them with an understanding of how the market works and specifically how they can make an impact regionally. How they can tap into the mentor network that we have, and how they can leverage the resources that we can bring to bear through not just our industry contacts, but our contacts in venture capital and in government to really get them on the path to accelerating their business and getting follow-on financing or getting their first customers.
So we normally, I think, have both a spring cohort and a fall cohort, which are both two different sort of,
right.
I guess, different groups. Tell us how that typically starts from these, putting out their, we're looking for applications to selection to the quote unquote the investment side of things, and then what is it, a cohort's, how long is the cohort, and what do they do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and how does it maybe end?
No, so that's a great question. So to sort of zoom out a bit, like any accelerator or like traditional accelerators, we operate on a cohort model. So we do 2 cohorts per year, one in spring, one in fall. We're actually currently actively soliciting companies for the spring 2018 cohort. And we tend to select 5 to 7 companies per cohort. We try not to have companies that are direct competitors of each other for obvious reasons. And we within a cohort, I should say. And we make a $50,000 investment for 4% equity. And we bring the companies to Herndon for a 3-month accelerator program, which is a combination of a business boot camp, which is sort of 3-4 weeks of intense lean startup-based business development, and specifically with a focus on cyber, building a successful, sustainable, high-growth business in cybersecurity. And then following those first 3-4 weeks, we move into what we have started terming, get out of the building time, where we really emphasize to our entrepreneurs to start making those industry connections, start leveraging the mentor network to the extent that they can, and really get out into the community to both do customer discovery, as well as make introductions to potential channel partners, to strategics, developing out their advisory board, and ultimately getting or finding a path to follow on investment. So, through CIT-GAP, we work with an extensive network of venture capital, primarily seed and early stage, which is typically what companies are looking for following the exit from the program. We try to cultivate those relationships early and often, so that we can get our entrepreneurs thinking about how they're going to need to pitch investors, what investors are in their space and are interested in investing in early stage cybersecurity companies, and quite simply just making introductions to the folks that are in our network, so that there's less of a barrier when they start going out and raising their round.
So they those who are selected. It's about a 3-month program, as you mentioned. They have desks and space here at CIT, and they engage with there's some formal training that's brought in. There's also what other things are what are some of the kind of the topics that maybe this training might be, just a couple ideas of the kind of breadth that we do, and then also the other activities that are undertaken with other may not be here at CIT.
Right. So we have there's sort of three parts to our program as we run it, and this is sort of similar to what you'd find at other accelerators, but again with a much more concerted focus on cybersecurity. So on the one hand, we, as you mentioned, we bring in experts from industry, both exited entrepreneurs. As well as people who are working for the sort of the larger Fortune 1000, Fortune 500 cybersecurity companies, bring them in to work with our entrepreneurs to help them understand, what the market looks like, what CISOs are seeing, what you need to do to pitch a CISO effectively, what they're looking for, the kinds of technologies they're interested in sourcing. So that's and we do that over that 3-4 week period. We bring in those folks to really give our entrepreneurs a sense for how they need to be thinking about the market, how they need to be positioning themselves to make an impact or to get some of those early customers from people who are actually in industry. The second part is the one-on-one mentorship that sort of occurs outside of the, I guess, classroom portion. And that's really focused on matching our entrepreneurs with mentors who are either in their space or who have a skill set that we think they could bring to the table to help them grow their business, help them refine their business plan, help them figure out, what they need to pivot in terms of their marketing approach or their sales strategy. And we try to get entrepreneurs working with anywhere from 5 to 10 mentors throughout the course of the program, with varying degrees of involvement, depending on what our entrepreneurs are looking for. So, and this is something that I would advise any company that's interested in Mach 37 as a potential accelerator program. If you go to mentors.mach37.com, you can, and this is available also through mach37.com on the mentors page. You can take a look at the folks that are in our network. And it is an expansive network that sort of covers all manners of and all applications of cybersecurity across industry. We have people from finance, healthcare, big data. I mean, really, like it runs the gamut, and that is because cybersecurity is horizontal. I mean, it really does cross into every vertical now. And so what we try to do is find mentors that will be bring like a sustained and fundamental impact to the entrepreneurs and the way they're thinking about their business, and those who are able to work with and coach our entrepreneurs as they refine their business plans and as they get their products into market. And often our mentors go on to serve as formal advisors to the companies that come through Mach 37, because they develop relationships, and that's really at the end of the day what our goal is to foster long-term engagements or long-term relationships that companies and the mentors themselves can leverage to mutual benefit. The third part of the program, and I think the third part of the value proposition, is the ecosystem events that we hold around each cohort. So every cohort we hold anywhere from 5 to 8 public-facing events where we invite people from our network, as well as sort of our expanded network of VCs, angels, cybersecurity experts, entrepreneurs, folks from government, and we invite them to security leaders dinners where we bring in prominent members from industry or from government to talk about issues that they're seeing in cyber. We bring in venture capitalists for an investment panel that we do every spring and every fall, where we convene a number of VCs who are in cybersecurity and invested in the cybersecurity space to sort of talk about what they're seeing, what they're interested in, what they're looking for. And we also have, of course, a Meet the Cohort where we present our cohort to the broader mentor network and get them some, press and publicity around that. And then we have a demo day to close out the cohort, for our spring cohort that occurs the first week of June, and in fall it's the first week of December. And those events are all designed to provide as much exposure as we possibly can to our companies, and to really drum up some good PR that they can then leverage following the program. We also work with a number of local partners to identify, pitch competitions, speaking engagements, other things that we can do locally, or we've also taken our entrepreneurs up to New York and to North Carolina to different pitch events and industry gatherings. We we try to get our entrepreneurs going to at least 1 or 2 conferences per quarter, which, you know, some of them are regional. We've been to the Northern Virginia Technology Council's Cybersecurity Summit, as well as RSA, which is, you know, happening in April, and we've, you know, tried to get as many of our entrepreneurs as we can engaged in those conferences and those events, because it's a good opportunity for exposure. It's a good opportunity to you know, engage with a broader network than, you know, they would otherwise have, and that's really, you know, part and parcel to scaling a business, is, you know, having a network and having connections that can really enable you to take it to the next level.
So in closing out, what would be, is there a general kind of ideal company that would get the most out of this, participating in as a Mach 37 company?
Mm-hmm.
What do they look like typically?
Yeah, and you know, it's funny because a lot of entrepreneurs ask me that question, and so I think that there are a couple of things to consider, both for, you know, for us on our side of the fence, and for entrepreneurs who are looking at accelerator programs, and I think this is more general advice to companies that are looking at accelerator programs, you know, whether Mach 37 or something that's in their vertical if they're not in cybersecurity. So I think the primary value that we provide and that any accelerator program provides is access to a network. It's very hard as a startup to even approach you know, early customers, or to approach investors, or to identify, you know, marketing or excuse me, sales leads, because you know, not many companies want to take a risk on a startup. It's incredibly challenging to get proof of concepts and pilots going if you don't have connections from industry, and if you don't have the resources to be able to compete with some of those other more entrenched vendors out there. And so what we do is provide entrepreneurs with access to a network that is specific to their industry, that gives them the ability to sort of get over that initial wall, where, you know, it's very hard to get an introduction to a VP for business development at, you know, say a financial institution. But if you're going through somebody who is in a network of mentors, who knows and is a friend of the program, yeah, that's something they'd be happy to do. And, you know, even if it's just for informational purposes, and that's really, I think, the value that an accelerator program can and should provide, is you know, a means to getting to those people that they need to know in order to be able to, you know, get a sense for what the market's doing, and get a sense for, you know, how they're going to position themselves, and eventually start to compete. So I think, you know, for us, that's primarily in security. You know, we have an entrenched regional network of security experts and folks from venture capital that we are consistently getting our folks in, or getting our entrepreneurs engaged with, to that end. I think for a company considering an accelerator, I would think about, you know, what is it exactly that I need for my business? You know, if you have early investment but no network, I think an accelerator program can be extremely valuable. If you have no investment but you have an expansive network, obviously accelerator programs can be that early investor. We obviously invest $50,000 in every company that comes into Mach 37, so there's value there too. But I think I would not understate the importance of the value of the network. So I think if I were choosing between 2 accelerator programs, one that I thought had a robust network and investment, and one that didn't have a robust network but had investment, I certainly know which one I would recommend a company choose, because the value of being able to get connected into an ecosystem that's going to help you grow your business is far greater than, you know, the initial investment, or the financial investment. So with I guess I would say.
Yeah. So with 2 cohorts a year, we're always, you know, how would a company consider getting involved as both an applicant or maybe even a mentor? You know, how do they get in touch with you guys? You mentioned the website. If you can mention that again, and so they know how to engage with you, perhaps even how do they get involved with coming to some of the public facing events you mentioned?
No, that's a great question. So for companies that are interested in the program itself, we have applications are now open for the spring cohort. So our website is mach37.com. There's an apply page, and our application portal is through F6S. But you know, for companies that are interested, I am always giving out my business card to you know, entrepreneurs who are looking for who are looking for an accelerator program. And so, you know, I think my information is available online. I'm on the Mach 37 page, but my email is mike.ravenscroft@mach37.com. And you know, anybody who's interested in becoming involved, either as a mentor or just, you know, sort of peripherally involved in attending some of our events, you know, I'm always looking to grow and develop the mentor network. So for those that are interested, you know, they're welcome to email me. And for companies that have questions about the program, I would say the same thing. I'm always happy to provide some more detail, either by email or over the phone.
Great. And as I always say, you know, the earlier you have questions, don't hesitate to call and reach out, so you're most prepared when the time comes and the opportunity comes. So so keep an eye out there. If there's any questions about today, anybody wants to follow up with me, my contact information is here on this slide. CIT.org is our main website. We have events for the SBIR program training ongoing throughout the year, throughout the state of Virginia, at the website at CIT.org/events. So I encourage you to look at that. And if there's any questions about this or any other programs at CIT that were mentioned here, please don't hesitate to call me. And Mike, thanks for your time today. And hopefully we encourage everybody to have as much success in looking at accelerators as they can. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rob.